Giga Texas is 95.6% done, but wait, where is I'm Brian. Welcome to my Tesla weekend. Thank you to my Patreons, and also Dan Chatka for his generous donation using the PayPal button on the channel. More on that at the end, but for everyone else, please subscribe and bell and smack the like button early so YouTube knows to actually show this video to others, blah blah blah. Let's go. Yes, 95.6% done. I'm including the decimal place now because we're deep in the long tail of interior completion and it's the only way to fairly show it. Sure, I could round up, but it's only going to go slower each week from here on out as we approach 100%. I'm seeing a lot of skeptics in the comments, as usual, absolutely convinced that these numbers can't be right, despite telling you how the math works for one full year as of this update. Happy birthday to the tracker! So where are all those last big important things we need to see? Well, I'll cover that, but first let's do the graph and get that out of the way. With the site prep, foundations, and framing well in the rearview mirror, there isn't much to say about that. Only the roof and interior completion remains. Well, the roof inched up, thanks to the slow accounting method used, and the interior did as well, though twice as slowly, with only a few new sections added. A little over a dozen wall sections remain to close off out of the entire 212, so there's not much left to count. It can't be that far along because the XYZ isn't done. Don't you know? All right. Well, let's start with the easiest one. It can't be done without paved roads. Well, I've always said they'd come in quickly, and they have. Nearly the entire site has its apron paved, with more of it done this week. At this pace, it'll be complete in the next 2 to 3 weeks, but even if it isn't, production doesn't require 100% pavement around the perimeter. Just enough to get the job done, which is a level we passed weeks ago. Last month, the complaint was that drainage hadn't been properly addressed, but here we are a few weeks later, and now it is all but done, and man is it robust. You need a paved parking lot for the employees. No, you don't. They'll have one, but they don't need one. There were very few paved parking lots or even roads outside of the Manhattan Project facilities, and you would have to be batty to argue that they were not fully operational. Asphalt goes down quickly. The entire parking lot could be covered in a weekend, like it does with many road projects of significantly larger scale. This is not important. Don't they need landscaping? I mean, I guess, but it was predicted to go in quickly while the interior was still underway, and that appears to have happened. Hydroseeding of banks has been done, the retention ponds have plants. It all looks pretty much on pace to me. Where is the test track? Every factory has a test track, apparently. Well, it's there. Don't you see it? Giga Shanghai doesn't have a racetrack, but a test track. It's just a couple strips of roadway with rumbles and speed bumps to ensure everything is securely attached and nothing rattles off. This is what it looks like in Shanghai, and this was all they had when Phase 1 launched. I suspect it will go here in Austin. You know, just outside where the General Assembly area concludes. Where is the supercharger? You can't build a Tesla factory without a battery of superchargers. You can. They did exactly that in Shanghai while the factory was still ramping, and only expanded it a year later in advance of the Model Y's ramp. They already have dozens of trickle chargers at what appears to be the end of the Model Y production line, and those will suffice until volume reaches a higher level. And let's take a quick, quiet moment to appreciate the utter shambles that was the exterior of Giga Shanghai when they were already complete and in production. Yeah, it looked like this. Where is the loading and logistics lot? I know this may sound flippant, but it doesn't matter. Despite very high production, Fremont has a very small loading lot, as you can see here. And while they might like it to be bigger, there's actually ample room in Texas. The space required will be small since, unlike Shanghai, they aren't storing up literal boatloads of cars to ship out. That's one of the many beauties of localized production. The second reason it's not important is because until the factory is ramped, there won't be enough cars for it to matter. Early production is likely to be in the 50 to 100 cars per day range, which are easy to store and easier still to ship to local customers. It's going to take whole quarters to get up to speed, during which time a larger logistics area can be paved. The third reason is, you'll notice I didn't say cleared, graded, and paved, but just paved. Yeah, there are vast areas at Giga Texas that have already been leveled, with more already underway. Any of these areas could be the eventual logistics and loading area, but until the factory is ramped, it really doesn't matter. Where are all the HVAC units on the roof? See, this one's my favorite one because it's the best and fairest question. And unless you've been following the progress obsessively, like some of us, there's no way you'd know the answer. They're already there. They were installed months ago, but they aren't on the rooftops. They're buried inside the building with just vents visible from the outside. You can see them in the northwest corner of the battery cell production area and right in the middle of the site here, in this footage from Joe Tetmeyer. You see that steam? Those are heat exchangers. That is your HVAC. I don't think they were originally intended to be put inside. They had to go back and cut the roofs open to make way for them. It looks like they were going to be on the roof, like, nearly every other building, but for some reason, they changed course midway through the project. Incidentally, the change occurred shortly after I made my shockingly accurate prediction of Giga Shanghai's production based in large part on the percentage of visible heat exchanger fans being in motion throughout the quarter. It's probably a coincidence, but I have yet to see a second reason why they would sacrifice floor space like this, if not to befuddle my predictions. What else is missing? Sure, there are a handful of trolls eager to say that the casting cathedral isn't done, even though it's been churning out finished pieces for months, with the same set of the stamping or paint shop, but we've seen enough scraps coming out to know that none of these claims are accurate. They definitely don't have finished battery packs from the site, but they plan to ship them in from Cato Road, and it's likely that seats, dashboards, and other interior components will be brought in as well. This shouldn't be a surprise since Giga Shanghai launched with something like 80 to 90% of components requiring off-site production. They brought them in-house eventually, and it led to higher productivity and better margins. The same will certainly happen in Texas. So let's take a look at the sitemap for this week and go from there. And as a reminder, I always like to leave nuggets at the end of these, so please stay tuned for that. This week, it's less exciting than ever toward the end, so I'm going to speed it up a tad bit for you regulars. You guys have been through this enough. It's faster. Just enjoy it. This is what Giga Texas looks like as of December 13th, 2021. And now let's roll it back to December 14th of 2020 when this tracker first launched. And let's go through it as we do week by week. To understand the sitemap, this is the overall footprint of the main building. The orange is the footings, with the darker orange being heavier footings. The gray is the framing work, with the darker gray indicating roof sections. In blue, you see the finished interior closed-off space, with darker blue indicating more floors. Yes, we track the floors. So the darker the blue, the more floors that there are. The black lines indicate a firewall or expansion joint, with the heavier black lines indicating a concrete wall. And as a reminder, this only tracks the main Emerald footprint, not any of the other projects around the site, since we haven't seen permits and we don't know what their eventual size and scope will be. Mad thanks to Jeff Roberts for allowing use of his amazing drone footage. So there it is, and there you go. As of December 13th, Giga Texas, the future birthplace of Yo Cybertruck, is 95.6% done and will be complete, for lack of a better word, in a total of 534 days from groundbreaking in the first week of January. It's already done in some capacity, but also won't be completely done until sometime quite a bit later as more areas of the factory come online. At this point, it's more a matter of how you personally decide to count it, I guess. So what do you think? Will the factory be essentially done in the next 24 days in some measurable capacity? Subscribe if you haven't to get notified. Follow me on Twitter at 4K Podcast, and smack the thummy thing in either direction if you made it this far. So what did I miss or misunderstand? Leave your wisdom and suggestions in the comments below, and as always, my friends, stay tuned, stay juicy, and I simply cannot wait to hear from you clever robots at, I hope, a live stream at the county fair in Texas. A quick thank you to my amazing gracious Patreons who get early access bonus content and ad-free experience, and to help keep the channel running for as little as $1 a month. A Giga Texas size thank you to all of you for your generosity and support, which helps keep me going in spite of YouTube being, awful. Thank you all so much. And for those of you who stuck it out this far, here is your overtime bonus. Which factory is the biggest? Well, it isn't Fremont, since we know it's smaller than Texas, despite being the largest factory in the US. We know it isn't Berlin, since we recently ran the math on that, and both the footprint and the floor count guarantee the floor area isn't as big as Texas. So that means the race is between Texas and Shanghai. Well, Texas, as you know, is almost 9 million square feet, 835,000 square meters. But we finally have the closest thing possible to an official word on the size of Shanghai, courtesy of Tesla China's social media department. So let's take a look.
更快行动，特斯拉选择在上海建厂。当你走进占地86万平米的厂区，众多细节显现出特斯拉的与众不同。
Did you catch that? Let me run it again, but slower.
当你走进占地86万平米的厂区。
So yeah, Giga Shanghai is bigger than Giga Texas. Well, at least until Giga Texas begins their next expansion, which I expect in 3, 2, 1,